Welcome back to the Better Days Rank podcast. And today I have good friend Mike in the studio with me, and we're kind of gonna talk about my recovery journey, but more importantly, like the last 2 years. Um, I started my recovery journey back in 2021 um, after a heroin-induced suicide attempt, and quickly found my way back into treatment. And but my recovery at that time did not stick. Right, I got about 2.5 years of sober time, and but it was super dry. I didn't have very much spiritual concept at all. Right, I was still full of ego. I'm in control. I know what's going on. I'm just gonna play the system.
Were you working a program then at all?
I was working a program, right? But it wasn't a spiritual program. It was, like I said, it was more of like I can still function and do what I want to do. You know what I mean? I was in treatment at a treatment facility here in Amarillo. It started off at Oxford House. Oxford House didn't go well for me. Even though it does great for other people, it just didn't go well for me. So I came back to Amarillo, went into treatment up here, and I was in treatment up here for 14 months. And as soon as I left treatment, I had a bad experience and fell straight back into addiction. Right, which got me into some trouble. And so where I went, these last 2 years that I've had in recovery have been the most life-changing 2 years of my entire life.
So that's kind of where I want to start, right? So one of the first things you did when you got out of jail the last time was start podcasting, or actually you started creating content. It's podcasting, it came a little bit later.
Right.
But why did you want to create content?
So you kind of hear stories about the aha moments, right? Where God sheds some light on you. And so I was sitting in jail on some pretty stout charges, right? And I was sitting there and just in my mind, I was just like, oh my God, like I'm torched. You know what I mean? And I've had a record. I've been in drug addiction for 25 plus years. Homeless for 15 plus years, and I was at a point to where it's like I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to do, but I know I can't keep doing what I'm doing. And I got into some books, and one was The Life of Brother Wu, which is about an old. He was a Chinese guy that traveled through the Middle East and China and I think some parts of Japan, and he spread Christianity. And it was just talking about his struggle, right, and how he was using his life to boost Christianity across the world, right? So that was kind of one of the first literatures that caught out to me, which I got some courage, or what I mean, like some attachment to that book. And then the second one was Martyrs for Jesus, and it was talking about the lack of Christianity in some of our third world countries, the Middle East, China, and how in a lot of places it's even illegal and you get sentenced to death for it.
Yeah, they'll kill you.
Yeah, like quick. You know what I mean?
Well, they would kill you for many reasons.
But I had this super solid foundation, right, that I had already been in recovery for 2 years, so I already had a good grasp on it. And so, I had my aha moment with God, and man, I swear, like, I heard his voice clear as day. And I think a lot of it was because it's so quiet, right? In jail, when everybody's asleep, it's dead silent, So I was able to hear God at that moment, right? He came at me, he said, I'm gonna need you to do some things, right? He said, first, like, I'm gonna need you to die to yourself because I can't work with you the way you are. So I need you to quit fighting with me. He's like, you're strong, bro, but you're not that strong. You're not gonna beat me.
Yeah.
You're not gonna win. Like, I will keep putting you down as long as I need to keep putting you down. And at this point, I had been stripped of my health. I had been stripped of my freedom, all my relationships. Like, I was alone, beaten, battered, naked, like stripped. It took, he had to really put me through it to get me to hear this moment.
Well, that's so I want to stop you because you've said a couple things that I think are important. You mentioned being a Christian in some countries will get you killed.
Right.
Well, being an addict in recovery in America is just as bad.
Dude, it's tough.
It's horrible.
It's tough, man. The the perspective, right? To think that we're all bad people. You know, I look at my situation today and I fully appreciate, and my life is so full of gratitude because my situation is rare. There's many addicts in this world that
Yeah.
do not get the blessings that I have gotten in these last 2
No,
years.
you're absolutely right. You're
Like,
absolutely right.
it is so hard for an addict to catch ground, especially coming out of jail. Because it's not like you come out of jail and there's this, you go back to living a normal life. You come out of jail, you go right back to the street.
Yep.
Right. And every time I had in the past, like, and I've got a pretty extensive record, I'm not going to lie. But every time I'd gotten out of jail, it was always that. You know, there was one time I was kicked out of jail and literally in my underwear. Bye.
Yeah.
Let me throw you on display as you go walk down the highway to wherever you need to go. Like, that's what it was. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like you get out and things are going to be good. Like, that's just where the struggle starts.
When you've talked about that on your show, and I think since this is more of a this interview, right, is more of a why you're doing what you're doing and how you do it, because a lot of people don't get the preparation that actually goes into doing an episode of a
Right.
podcast.
Right.
But they also don't see behind the scenes how many people support you. And you're right, that is rare. You are in a position where and I see the gratitude.
Well, typically
gratitude.
non-player characters, they can't accept it, so they turn their back to it, right?
Yeah.
Which is understandable in certain areas, right? You got to have your boundaries, but at the same time, to leave an addict alone with nothing is like the worst possible thing you could do.
But you know, that's one thing
For
that
an
is
addict.
kind of unique in America too, because if you look at how addiction is handled in certain countries,
Yeah.
where they have universal health care or socialist medicine
Right.
and things like that, Canada completely different.
Yeah.
You get supported through that treatment
Right.
to a point.
Yeah.
Same in Europe. There are certain countries in Europe where they've decriminalized certain substance abuse problems because they had become like America, where they just throw you in jail and forget about you.
Well, you look at Portugal. Like, Portugal solved 90% of Portugal's problems by decriminalizing drugs, because
and supporting people,
but supporting
in
the recovery.
Yeah.
So and that's where we as Americans didn't get it right, right? So there's been tests all over America. You know, we saw that in was it Portland?
Yeah, well, Oregon.
Oregon.
decriminalized certain things.
That's right. So they decriminalized it, right?
But no
they
support-
didn't funnel the
no sup-
money that they would have used to jail people
Same in Colorado.
back into into
Same
recovery.
in Colorado. No
See,
support
Portugal
for-
did it beautifully. They said, okay, we're going to take all the money that we'd use to put people in jail, and we're going to help them succeed.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get them jobs. We're going to help fund them for their first year so they can get on their feet. You know, and that's how they solved their problem. See, America, we tried to commit to it, but we didn't fully commit to
Right.
it.
So this is where I think your show differs from a lot of the guys that talk about addiction recovery, because we can name 4 or 5 shows that we both kind of follow what they do and how they talk about recovery. And then we can look at the therapist side of it, right? Because
Right.
we've talked about heavily on your show about how people need counseling. They need a support group. They need a
support group, man.
community. So really, you're in a unique position because you're calling out the people that don't help the non-player characters, right?
It's not necessarily calling people out, but it's more
You're
along.
bringing it to light.
I
because
don't
it's a
want to
subject we
sit there
don't talk
and
about.
tell people what they're doing wrong, right? And because me calling somebody out is doing nothing but creating a conflict, right? So what I want to do is I want to focus on simply how can we make things better. Let's focus on what works instead of repeating cycles that don't work.
So you've gone from 140 views in a month
Oh,
to
bro.
what were your stats yesterday?
So I was sitting at yesterday. We're about 3 weeks into the month, and about 160,000
So this is what's different
in the last
right?
3 weeks.
when you hit publish on a show, every podcaster, every blogger knows that the first time you hit publish, that is raw, and you're coming at it from a different angle. So over the last year, I've seen the growth in you and how you approach your content, and you see this on the people that start to pick up steam. So how do you balance being raw and creating conflict? Because I know you don't like to, but that conflict is necessary.
Yeah.
Right? Because if there's no conflict or friction, there's no growth. You've been through a hell of a lot. You got a lot to tell people, and some of it you can't tell yet. That's the really crappy part about this. And so I'm sitting here frustrated because, like, I want to say stuff, but I can't. But as somebody that's seen you grow, I'm bringing this up because I'm kind of skipping ahead into where, because I think we need to just get to the meat of why we're doing this right now, right? The message needs to be told, regardless of how it's delivered. That delivery does matter to the non-player characters who really ignore addiction. And then the people that are still in addiction. How do you balance that where you're reaching the people the families of those in addiction, and then those that are right out of addiction in early recovery? Like, how are you making that balance in your content? Because I see it, but I want you to explain how you're doing that.
So let me go back to getting out of jail, right? Because this was literally the most powerful moment of my recovery. God told me, when I get you out of here. Now, mind you, I did not think I was getting out anytime this lifetime. Yeah. I just didn't. He said, when I get you out here, I need you to do three things. I need you to build your house the way you want to build it. I need you to be the difference in everything you do. And I need you to be proactive at doing it. And that proactive part, boy, that's the kicker.
Yeah, you got
that's the kicker, right? So, again, I heard it, and I felt it, right? So I'm sitting in jail and I'm contemplating this what if in my head. What if it does happen? You know, I've spent 25 years in drug addiction. I have no real skills, no trade skill. I have no degree behind me. I have nothing, right? Except 25 years of addiction. And that's when the light flickered. Okay, so you don't know anything, but
you know a lot.
I've got a doctorate in addiction. Yeah. You know what I mean? And 25, everything that comes with it, right? It may not be on paper, but I have that lived experience. And so it was about a week after that, my wife found a way to get me out.
So this goes right into that. If you're looking at yourself, if you could go back to 2 years ago, knowing what you know right now, what would you tell yourself?
Bro, faith works. Faith works. You know what I'm saying?
I remember somebody telling you that when you first walked in the studio.
No, bro, because and I didn't mean to do this, right? You know, when God said, I need you to die to yourself, right? I didn't understand that.
I think you can still not understand.
I did not understand that, right?
I think in 5 more years you'll have a completely different picture.
But I took the right step, right? Yeah. So when I got out of jail, the very first thing I did was go get baptized. That was the very first thing. Within a month, I was baptized in the church, right? And I crazy, call me crazy, but when I came out of that water, like, I felt reborn. Like, the air felt different around me. People were screaming and crying out. It was, again, a very powerful moment for me.
Sorry.
You're good. just don't get your COVID on me, you know?
It's not the Rona. I was in that cooler this morning in the flower shop.
Yeah, so then I did that, and then again, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and God just kind of told me, man, like, use that lived experience. And I did. I was very limited. I was living in the back of my wife's car. She was staying with a friend, but they wouldn't allow me to stay there. So at that time, I was living in the back of her car, and I just busted open the laptop, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start pouring things out on Facebook. Like, I'm just going to start pouring in, and we'll see what happens, right? So I started doing that, and I was doing it every day.
Yep.
For about 9 months, I did it every single day. I just spent about 30, 45 minutes on Facebook and just poured out everything I knew about addiction, the things I knew about recovery. And, you know, just as much as I try to inspire others, like, people were inspiring me to keep going.
Sure.
And their comments and the things that they were saying. So it was like, okay, this is helping people. right? So I did that for a while, and then I was like, maximum service. How can I do more? How can I do more? And a friend of mine that actually helped me in my treatment. Um, I reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, let's go have coffee. I got some questions. I want to take some of what I'm doing to the next level, but what I really want to do is I want to do a recovery event in Amarillo for the people, right? And I want to raise money, and whatever money we raise, it doesn't go back to the city, but I want to do it towards like building people homes or you know what I'm saying? Like doing something with that
Service work.
money to do serious impact work in the community. So we met up for coffee and we talked for about an hour and a half. She says, I got some guys I want you to meet. I think they'd be good for you. And I'm like, all right, we'll set it up. So I'm good. You know, let's do this. And, mind you, like at this point, I'm out on bond, right? And I'm still kind of clueless as to what direction life's going. And, but I'm just following that faith. You know, I'm just trying to do what God was asking me to do. Just, I'm being faithful to it. And then
That's
I got
called obedience.
yeah,
That's really what it is. So,
yeah.
so when you don't know exactly what you're supposed to do, you just do what God's laid on your heart.
You know, and I've never had this before, right? I never had a home. And at 39 years old, like me and my wife were able to get a little apartment. And so these were things that life started changing and when life started changing, that faith in God started growing, right? Because you take a person who was absolutely not spiritual his entire life and you try to introduce the concept of God to them and they're mind blown, right? And I was there. I was mind blown. You couldn't tell, you could sit there and preach God, the word, everything to me, but you were talking to a brick wall.
Oh, yeah.
To an absolute brick wall. You have to live it. You have to live it. You have to walk in it. And that's what God meant by be the difference. You know what I'm saying? Embody that difference that you're trying to be. So then I got introduced to Warrior Garden Studios. And they're like,
been miserable ever since.
No, man. It's been, some of the best guys I've ever known in my life were here. And thank God they decided to take me in and mentor me. And, we decided to do the podcast, right? And as the podcast started growing, mind you, I'm doing this and going to AA meetings, and still constantly searching throughout the community to do service, right? Because I had already made up my mind. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to live a life of service. You know what I'm saying? Like, because this is not only does it keep me sober, but I'm at peace. Where my entire life has been chaotic, destructive, like I am at peace. And God told me, he's like, if you want to save yourself, save others. And you will find peace in that. And I have. I found so much peace in that. It is the best work I ever decided to get into, the most rewarding work I've ever decided to get into, right? And today I have something to contribute.
Well,
where I had nothing to contribute before in my past.
So this really is kind of leads to the next thing is like you literally have turned your life around.
Very dramatically, very quickly.
But some people don't see that because the real world operates on this trust relationship, give and take. What can I get from you? What can you give me? But where I'm going with this is the question. Turning your life around, how is that received in outside of the addiction community? How is that received for you? How's that been for you?
Bro, so coming out of jail, everyone told my wife to leave me in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude is a career criminal. He's never going to learn. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's cooked. Leave him. Right? When she decided to get me out, she introduced what you call unconditional love. Agape love, the spirit of God. Right? And that's what has impacted me the most. Right? And has opened this floodgate for me to kind of go through. Right? Because I did feel undeserving of it. I did feel like my life was over. I mean, I was sitting there staring at a brick wall going like, this is it, bro. And God let me out. And he did it so beautifully through my wife. Now we're married and dude, life is so good. Now, when we went back into the meetings, of course, you still have those people who are skeptics, right?
Well, and that's where I was really getting.
Yeah. So no,
So
at first I was
so
completely
it's not
rejected.
just the meetings, though. I think that's really the
No.
thing. Is if you look at people as a whole,
Mhm.
and this is a touchy subject for us because we see how the system is broken for people in addiction and even people that aren't in addiction. The system overall is broken. We don't offer grace. We don't offer compassion. We don't offer
Well,
unconditional love to people that are coming out of a broken system
I
that
think
may or may not be broken.
so. Again, I'm not going to talk bad about the system, right?
But
Because
you're talking about
what I'm talking about. So
receiving grace. It needs to start at every level. It
what
starts
changed?
with us.
What changed for me was support.
Right.
Right. Yeah, ultimately and truthfully, my wife's support, the support from the guys here at the studio, and as I have progressed in my recovery, now the support that I'm getting from not only the city of Amarillo, but from our followers across the world, you know what I mean, is huge.
Well, dude, I love that about
It's
your stats. Dude, you go
huge.
look at some of the countries that you've popped
Bro,
up in.
I'm everywhere. It's everywhere.
I'm like, wait a
God,
minute.
it's so
you had,
good.
You had people from India watching your stuff.
Bro, it's all over the
That's
place.
cool.
And everybody, it's blowing up. We're reaching about 40,000 new followers a month. You know, probably more than that, honestly, because we're on just about every platform. So you literally have to go through and start adding up everything on all the platforms. But just, I mean, Facebook alone, we had 80,000. You know, and then you go over to YouTube, we're at 100,000.
So
And
this goes back to now that you've hit publish and you're being real, people see you, they understand the message. The people that are getting this, right? The algorithms treat people a certain way,
Yeah.
but the more content you push, the more visibility you get. But you've also built a trust factor amongst the people that watch you, the people that do follow you, and more people should follow, right? This is the thing about subscriptions that most people don't get. It's like, you really want to support someone, subscribe to their channel.
Yeah.
Even if you never watch it again, that subscription means more than people understand. But you've built a following. You've built trust
so something
in social media
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and locally in the community.
And the podcast has opened so many doors.
Yeah.
Right. Do podcasts pay out tons of money? Absolutely
None.
not. You know what I'm saying?
We're not Joe Rogan.
But you know what I'm saying? As an influencer, right? I get invited to public speaking engagements. I'm on the board for different nonprofits here in Amarillo. I've had job offers, right? They're and just the gratitude that people get. Because when I would go into meetings, and this is really what inspired a lot of the podcast, right? Was I'd go into meetings and there's that person who walks in the door one time, leaves, never comes back.
Yeah.
Or you have that person who's in there for 20 years and is still miserable.
Or the guy that just
Sober
is
as heck.
court appointed and has got to go.
Or quarter pointing and getting his paper signed, right? So I had to kind of put myself on punishment. You know, coming out of jail, I knew I needed to put myself, because I needed to do a super dramatic change, right? So I did 540 meetings in 6 months, right? And, you know, now we're talking about, since then, I've probably done at least 2,000 meetings, you know, in the last year and a half, 2 years. Like I'm a faithful meeting. I show up to meetings faithfully just about every day. But it's an intricate part of my program, right? But for me to be of maximum service, I sat there and I said, okay, are people not willing to accept recovery, or are they just not willing to go into an AA room?
Yeah, that leads me to one of my next questions, but keep going.
So I built this podcast, right? Because a lot of people just don't want to be put on blast. You know what I mean? They don't want to air their business out because typically, right? And I'm not saying everyone, but typically we're not very trusting with information, right? So when people have to air out some very extreme business, right, they have to know it's a safe spot. So when I started speaking and doing the podcast, I started airing out some of those things, right? So people knew that I was a safe place.
So it's vulnerability.
Oh, super vulnerable.
But it's also you're doing that to be trustworthy to people that need it.
Absolutely.
And that's where the grace comes in, right? So
Right.
like when you walked in the doors, there was no judgment whatsoever about
No,
what
no,
happened before.
and I didn't feel it.
And that is what you give to other people. So you've been given that gift from the guys here. but you also give that gift to others. And then that leads back to the stigma around recovery. So what do you think the hardest part is about that stigma that's still out there? Because you get it in the recovery room too, right? They're judgmental, but there's still a stigma of like you can't overcome certain things, and I don't believe that. I've seen you change.
So here's the thing about it. Like I said, my situation is unique because I found not only did my wife support me in my mission, right?
100%,
I
1000%.
yeah, like dove in.
1000%.
It was like, bro, I'm not backing out on you no matter what. Like, you've got this, right? Everyone who has doubted me coming out of jail this last time, like everyone, seriously, every single person has came back and made their amends with me, except for 2 people. And those 2 people are you know, hopefully we
Maybe one
can
day.
hopefully
Maybe
we
one
can
day.
make an amends with these last 2 people, and then once those 2 people, like, then I will be fully free from some of the bondage that I've been in, right?
Well, and really though, as long as you've forgiven yourself,
And I have,
you're free.
and I've stepped into a whole new realm, and it's just a matter of getting those people to see that, right? That I'm not the same person that I was my entire life.
So looking back though, there's still that stigma.
Yeah.
How do you address that? Because you do a really good job at it. I'm not going to say it, but you do a really good job because there's people that see you
Takes
and
work,
react
bro.
a certain way, but that doesn't phase you. How do you do that?
So I started by working different recovery programs. Started AA, then I went to NA, then I did U-turn, rewired. I've done some different recovery programs, as well as put myself in college for the simple fact to figure myself out. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the sole purpose of it. Starting out was to get answers, right? Because like I had to become obsessed with me changing in every aspect, right? And I've come to really find out that there's only one fact about recovery, and that recovery works when you work it, right? You have a million different recovery programs, and every single one of them will talk trash on the other one, right? But the one fact is they all work when you work them.
Well, you know, it's funny because there's one program I've seen. I don't really think it talks trash on people. And that's really where I was going. Giving you the opportunity to tout yourself here,
You know,
bro, because
so
you wrote a program.
I approach
that
everything
is-
with humility, bro.
but
Everything with humility.
but there's a time when even a humble, so you can be detrimental to be too humble.
No, yeah. So
Well, you wrote a program.
I did. I wrote a
that is
program last
so
year.
well received, bro. Like people want you to come and share the program you've developed.
Okay, so
for a reason.
I've gotten. I really took everything that I went through, every question mark, everything that I could not for the life of me figure out, and I became obsessed with getting answers. And I documented everything. And so through my course of doing that, I have developed a recovery program, right? That's still not complete. Like it's I feel
Well,
like
I think it's going to continue to adapt.
well, so I made it for my style,
Right.
right? So I made it for me to teach, right? But what I didn't do is I didn't make it in a way where somebody else could teach it in the same way.
Right. But everybody's different.
You know what I
Every
mean?
teacher's going to be different.
So I
But the
need to
material itself is usable by someone else. Don't
right.
Don't take
It
wrong.
is. It is. So but yeah. So it took me about a year to write this program, and I tested it out at one of our local treatment facilities on their sober living side. And it really just started off as a one-time, hey, we need somebody to come in here and hold a meeting. Would you mind doing it? Cool. But like, I'm not your typical AA guy, right? I love AA, don't get me wrong. It's just not my way, right? As I've learned more about myself and you know, spiritually, physically, and emotionally, right? I do have some strong AA roots, but I've outgrown it in certain senses,
Yeah.
right? So I built this, and so I go up there one time, and mind you, this is volunteer, right? So the people who are in the sober living side, they could tell me to kick rocks at any given time, and the house mom would be like, "Get out! They don't want you here," you know. So it started off as once. She called me the next week, said, "Hey, you mind coming back?" So I came back again, did it another week. Came back the fourth week, and she's like, "Do you think we could do this once a week from here on out for as long as you can do it. I'm like, well, yeah, I'd love to, right? And so we did that for about a month or two, and then
they lost their funding. Which
no,
is
no, no,
why
no, 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 no. So then she came back at me. She said, "Well, the guys don't want to do AA anymore. Will you come twice a week?"
Oh, well, yeah, but eventually they lost their funding.
Yeah. So what it do is it ended up being twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 2 hours a night. I sat in a room with 50 guys, right, and we did Better Days Rain Recovery.
So what was the feedback like on that?
It was amazing. It was amazing because, like I said, these dudes could have told me to kick rocks at any time, and I was very open with that, right? With those guys, once a week, hey, y'all guys want to do AA or y'all want to do what I brought? Bro, let's do what you got.
Yeah.
So it was really up to them how we did our meetings, and they chose that way. So I did that for 7 months, all the way up until that facility shut its doors, which was really heartbreaking to me. But I still stay in touch with a lot of those guys through social media. And it was funny you said, because last night I talked to a bunch of them, right? And your typical recovery statistic is 1 out of 10. And out of 50 guys, I think 26 reported back in last night that they're still sober. Still sober, moved on, living productive lives. So even though I didn't get where I wanted to, which is everyone,
well, but
I shortened that from 1 out of 10 to 1 out of 5.
But also, you got to keep in mind your mode of communication may not be so.
Right.
But
no, I'm very proud of them guys.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
them guys
be.
did die hard work, and I get to see their efforts.
But even at 50%, that's better stats and odds than just a standard AA.
And this is a year later, by the way.
And that's
like
just
this is a
odds.
year later. So this has been a whole year this program has been down, and these guys are still living productive lives. And so that's something for me to be extremely proud of.
So what do you think over the last 2 years and all the things that are still outstanding in your life, because there's a lot of chaos that happens.
Yeah.
Life happens, right? What do you think is the superpower you developed?
Man, centering God in everything I do, bro. You know, it's kind of funny, right? Because I go back to saying being proactive. There was about a year and a half ago, we were sitting in here, as a matter of fact, and we were talking about make yourself undeniable, which I felt like that falls right in line with the first, right? I'm like, okay. So that's when I wrote the program, right? And then it was about, I don't know, 6-7 months ago, we were talking about double down on everything you do. So I'm like, okay. So then started writing the book and you know, doing some other things. And it wasn't till about 3 weeks ago. Well, it was right when YouTube boomed. Right when YouTube boomed. And mind you, YouTube didn't boom and I did this. I did this first and then YouTube boomed, right? I was sitting at home, it was like 3 a.m. and I'm like, God, why am I still not getting the results I want? And I swear, like in the back of my mind, I heard this voice. It's like, let me break it down to you as stupidly as I could make it. Do more.
Yeah.
So what I did is I went online and I looked up the #1 motivational speaker in the world and I saw his output, right? And now I'm doubling his output.
And it's not just that though. It's that realization that you needed something else.
Well, I boosted everything I did, right?
But,
because I was hitting a
so
point of exhaustion.
There's a difference between being busy and being productive, Sean.
Yeah.
And we find that in the studio too, right? Like I've been busy, but not producing.
Yeah.
So if you've seen any of like the latest commercials, like the one I did with Mission Music, right? The voiceover of that was about producing, about production. It's right around the same time that we created that, right? Output doesn't equal good results. It's input and output equal good results.
Well, so for me, again, I'm going to go back to God, right? There's consequences for starting things and not finishing them.
And that's the input I'm talking about.
And that's what I felt like we were doing. Like I felt like I was just constantly starting things and having this great plan, right? But like follow through game was getting weak. So I was just like, you know what? I've really just got to take all these irons in the fire and I just got to take them all out and just start focusing one at a
So
time.
as somebody who sees you every day, I'm going to tell you what your superpower really is: discipline, bro.
Oh yeah, absolutely, bro. And you just
So I
got to
see
boost it. You
Yeah.
have to boost it. Like, I had problems with my health for a very long time. Cirrhosis of the liver, Crohn's disease, substance use disorder, and I used to take heavy medications for those. Last time I was at the doctor, bro, great liver enzymes. Liver's perfectly healthy. I mean, it's still scarred up, but they were like, we don't even, who
The
told,
liver-
their question to me was like, who told you had cirrhosis?
Like the liver is one of the only organs in the body that will regrow itself. It can actually heal.
But even like my Crohn's is way down. I used to have horrible stomach cramps. I haven't gotten cramp in a long time. And of course my substance use disorder, right? I went through an extremely stressful day Monday, right? And everybody was looking at me like, bro, are you gonna crash?
You know what? I didn't.
Are you gonna crash? And I was literally just sat there and I was just like, hadn't even thought about it, to be honest with you.
You know what? I didn't. And
Didn't
you want
cross
to know
my
why?
mind at all.
It's because I know you.
Like,
Like, I know you now. I didn't know you then. And people that knew you then and people that
Oh, yeah.
are close to you, I didn't worry about that at all. And I
Well,
have in
just-
other stressful days you've had, I've worried about that.
yeah,
But Monday, when you came in and told me what had happened, I wasn't worried about it at all.
I was just,
Because I have a different, my faith and where my belief system are a little bit more
bro,
structured and
my
rigid.
faith is super strong today.
I know, and I've seen that in you, right?
You know.
And that is the difference that maybe not everybody sees, but you convey that really well. And your blow up on YouTube, if people pay attention, you're bringing it back to kind of where I wanted you to go a year ago, where
Yeah,
you're like, well, it's not all about God. I don't want to push that, but you don't.
bro. Honestly, it's not necessarily it's inviting God into it, right? It's not saying I got to put God into the podcast,
That's
but
the
I got to
difference.
put God into me.
And that's the difference. And that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Inputs into
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
and working at execution
and
produces
just listening
results.
and just listening. You know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't hear God a lot of times. A lot of times there's that stress, there's all the noise, there's all these, again, irons in the fire and people trying to pull you this way and that way. Like, we don't really allow ourselves a lot of time to listen to God. So I started doing the get up at 4 a.m., 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And bro, I have some of the most powerful moments at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Well, yeah, because you're focused.
It's
you're
hyper
You're
focused.
listening.
Yeah.
Right.
It's quiet. Wife's asleep. Dogs are asleep. There's no noise. There's no traffic. I mean,
So
it's dead silent.
Here's what I think is
And
funny.
it's been huge. I sleep better.
Oh,
I'm not like, I used to have to take like Tylenol PMs to go to sleep. Those are gone. I used to have horrible nightmares. Like, I could have never had good dreams. Now, I will say this, right? Just to throw a little crack out there, right? So I got on the patch to quit smoking cigarettes. They tell you don't fall asleep with your patch on, you will have some super lucid dreams. And so it's like the second night I'm on
How'd
the
that
patch.
work out for you,
So
Sean?
the second night I'm on the patch, right? And I didn't even think about it. Didn't even cross my mind. I'm out, right? I wake up at like 1:30 in the morning and I just had this super like PCP type dream. Like you were just like tripping acid dream. And I woke up and I started laughing and my wife rolled over. She's like, what's going on? I was like, I got to take this damn patch off. like, does this dream come with popcorn? Like, and I told my wife to stop talking so I could go back to sleep to finish the dream. It was that crazy, bro. Like, it was wild. But yeah, no, but like, truthfully, I don't have bad dreams anymore. I sleep better. I have more energy. I'm more spiritually fit. I'm more goal oriented. Like, there's so many things that I never thought.
Sorry, I just had a thought. I started laughing. I didn't mean to. I'm not laughing at what you're saying. You said something about the dream, and my mind went. I have ADHD.
Dude, it was like The Purge. Like I was watching The Purge in my head, and I'm running from all these people, right? And as I'm running from all these people in my dream, I'm sitting there going in my mind. I'm like, I know me. I know I ain't gonna run for too much longer. Sooner or later, I'm gonna stand my ground. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm waiting for that moment where I turn around and buck back. You know what I mean?
But my thought was actually kind of the same thing. But all of them have your mask on.
Yeah, no, it was super crazy, bro. It was wild.
I have seen your growth in a different way, right? I don't always talk to you about what I see that's good about you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I pick on you, but I always call you out to make you think a little bit differently, right? And I see how that has made you better.
Bro,
But
like,
where I want to go with this is a question for you.
okay,
Your superpower has really become discipline.
absolutely.
We briefly touched on feedback, but I want to know what you really feel is different about you now, not just your faith in God, but in your routine. What is different now than what it was when you were in addiction? What's that one thing that really stands out?
So in my addiction, man, I was obsessed with the drugs, right? Now I am obsessed with learning. Like, again, starting the YouTube channel, there's a lot to doing that, right? So I had to learn that whole thing, and I self-taught myself. Like, I didn't like go into the books or have anybody else show me how to do it. Like, I literally was tracking analytics.
Well, when you ain't got
Doing
no
all-
money, you don't really got to pay for it.
You know
gotta
what I
learn to do it
mean? You're like,
yourself.
I got to blow up somehow. I'm gonna teach myself how to do this, But no, today I'm absolutely obsessed with learning, and I keep myself, firm believer. Like, when I set out on this Better Days Ray mission, it was to inspire people like me in a way that it's never too late, right? No matter what the odds are stacked against you, no matter, because I'm telling you, like, I've had some things stacked against me real hard, and they're still pushing against me, right? I can't, like I said, we can't go into too much detail about it, but like, I've had a huge amount of weight on my shoulders over the last 2 years. But in these 2 years, I have had the most productive, joyous, eye-opening learning experience of my entire life, right? It's a complete transformation.
So some people look at recovery as like a headline. Hey, like imagine the newspaper is like, oh, Sean's in recovery, yay, right?
Right.
But that's not really you. You've moved past that early stage of recovery to where you're now really serving other people.
Right.
You're disciplined in yourself. You're growing yourself. You want to learn every day.
Hmm?
What do you think it's going to be like in 2 years from now?
Man,
So let me get very specific. You have a vision for 2 years from now and hopes for 5 years from now. So like if you have a goal for 2 years, what is that goal? And then 5 years out, what does that look like?
well, so I was hoping by next year to land some events and speaking engagements. Things are happening a lot faster than what I ever expected, right? So
That's what happens when you execute, bro.
well, when I was planning for things to happen next year, like literally got phone calls last night talking about how would you feel about doing our event July 4th this year?
Yeah.
I'm like, bet, So I really want to get into being a voice for recovery. Like I want to take not only the podcast on the road, but my message on the road, right? I want to impact recovery in a way it's never been impacted before, right?
I honestly would like to see you take your program and get it, because you said your program wasn't really, it's meant for your teaching style. But knowing some of the people that you've had in here as guests,
Mhm.
like I could see Tyler could blow
Yeah,
your
bro.
program up and make his own
No,
kind of
no.
adjustments in how he teaches it. Have you thought about doing that, like creating an structure and teaching other people to teach your program?
So I do at some point, right? Like I said, there's been a lot of irons in the fire, so I'm really trying to just get one to where it's producing good fruit,
Right.
Before I start bouncing around again, because I did a lot of work but didn't get a whole lot of progress out of it.
Would that be in your 5-year plan?
Now I got like a bunch of personal progress out of it, but as far as where I wanted certain things to go, there was always stopping points, right? So that's like a 5-year type thing. Something I want to get into, this summer, leading into next year, man, is I really want to hit some of the schools. I want to hit, different events. I'd really like to go down to Austin and do some of their recovery events down there as a public speaker. Uh, and again, stay involved. Like we have Texas Panhandle Overdose Awareness coming up in August, and I was on the phone with the director of that last night, and we're starting to plan that out. So it's just, I have a lot of different things, but I really want to get into public speaking, motivational speaking.
So we talked.
My wife signed me up for a TED Talk. Like, sent me the email. Like, didn't even tell me. She's like, just sent me the email. She's like, hey, I signed you up for this. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, but that's good. Because if she hadn't done it, I was probably going to.
But that was one of my goals when I started.
Well, I want to talk.
I wanted to do a TED Talk.
I want to talk real quick about something else you just said. Like, you've kind of got some 5-year plans, some long-term goals, right?
Mm.
There's still that one or two things we can't talk about that may derail that plan temporarily. What are you going to do if something tries to derail you? Like, and I'm going to use a car accident for an example because I hate that, but looking at how quickly that can change your life.
Right.
How are you going to handle something that comes at you to try to derail you? What are you doing to protect yourself?
Man, today so a lot of us, when we come into recovery, we have these what we call soft boundaries. Those are boundaries that are in place one day, but not in place tomorrow, or they're in place with certain people and not everyone. And this is something I had to learn real recently because I was stretching myself out really thin, trying to be a benefit to everyone. And again, I was exhausted. I was just exhausted, and it wasn't producing the way I needed it to. And like I said, that's when God just said, do more. Like, turn it up. I know you're tired. I know you're beat.
Yeah.
I know you're broke, but keep going, And so I did. Instead of, making an excuse to back down from it, like I faced it. And I was just like, okay, put it in overgear. Sleep less, do more,
And then you actually sleep more and sleep better.
Get rid of some of the comforts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sacrifice some of those comforts that I have and progress through life, and I've learned, man, like if you're going to really, I've come to this understanding that God put us all here to do great things, not average, but great.
Yep.
Right. And a lot of us will sit here and tell ourselves that we have this extreme faith in God, but we have this lack of faith of what God put in front of us. Right. I've seen this a lot. And it's frustrating, right? Because I'm like, I've asked people, bro. I'm like, let me push the trigger on this and go, and they hold back, and I'm like, why are you holding back? And it just drives me insane because God would not put it in front of you if you couldn't handle it, and that's where I run with it today, right?
I told you that 50 times over the last.
But God had to tell me. God had to tell me. You know what I mean? No, but so I did. I just started pushing the trigger on things. Now, how do I protect myself? I no longer negotiate with things trying to destroy me, right? That is people, places, and things. Now, does it mean people are evil and stuff like that? No, but I had to separate myself a little bit from people who are kind of having that quitter's mentality or that, what if mentality, right? And I just had to go after it. And I had to do it on my own. I didn't want to do it on my own. I didn't. Like, I wanted to take other people with me because I saw it. As soon as I promise you, man, it was like I saw the video drop, and I was like, I found the sweet spot. Attack, attack, attack. And I tried to tell everybody, and everybody was like, oh, bro. I was like,
so here's the thing.
I couldn't stop.
This is the wonderful thing about God. He has a sense of humor. Your timing doesn't apply to everybody else.
I know it doesn't.
And
I know it doesn't.
That's the bad part, right?
But I was letting it weigh me down, right?
Right.
So that was something I had to put as a non-negotiable. Like, I had to quit trying, when I say non-negotiable boundaries and things trying to destroy me, things trying to bring me down, things trying to separate me from what I'm trying to do.
It's about your attention. It's
You know
what
what I
you're
mean?
giving attention to.
Right.
And that's why that input matters. Like, if you're taking in good input, like, I forget the guy's name that you were watching. We've listened to him like 4 or 5 times.
Oh, dude, Eric Thomas is a beast.
Yeah.
Beast mode.
So I also have people that I follow as well, right? Andy Frisella is one of them.
Yeah.
There's a few others. Chad Wright. it's the input. So if you're not reading your Bible, I've told you this a million times,
Yeah.
and I even went and bought you one, right? Because I want you in that word.
And it sits by my bed, by the way.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. If you're not putting good things into your life,
Absolutely,
it's
bro.
like why some of us are still
Absolutely.
fudgy and pudgy is because we're still eating our emotions rather than dealing with them, right? That's a lot of people's problems. A lot of addicts have this problem.
Right.
We can be addicted to a lot of things, not just drugs.
So I have this brain about me where I can listen to things really well, right? But when it comes to pulling words off of a page,
Man, it's hard.
it's hard,
Yeah.
right? So when I went into AA, like they're like, read this book, and I'm like,
Nah,
it's not happening, dude.
I'm not reading that.
Like,
book.
I'm not reading it. Like, this book is as thick as the Bible. Like, no, not happening. I spent my whole life trying to understand the Bible, and I've read the Bible 2 or 3 times, and it never sticks, right? So something I've practiced is taking certain scripture, right, and then looking for a podcast that talks about that specific scripture, and I can absorb it that way.
Well, and that is also how you should learn, right? Is talking to other people that have that knowledge and skill
Right.
set. So you talk about teaching yourself YouTube, but that's what you did is you went to people that talked about it, you read about it, you pulled all those little resources, and this is where I'm going with this.
So
The tone of your podcast just changed over the last year because your inputs are different.
You know, I learned something about watching how-to videos on YouTube, right? Is you got to make sure them YouTube how-to videos are up to date.
Yeah.
So some of the things I was trying to learn from are videos that were 4, 5, 8, 8 years
Yeah,
old.
I saw some of those.
Right? So I was doing what they were doing, and I'm like, it ain't working. It ain't working, So I really just had to get in there and start testing things out for myself, right? And it's some of the things that we talk about on a daily basis, and I we've talked about it 1,000 times, but none of us. I swear, not one person said, hey, maybe we should do this. And then I just happened to do it on accident 3 weeks ago. I was like, you know what? Let's try it. And I was like, oh, my God.
It was actually a little longer than 3 weeks ago. It just feels like 3 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
it wasn't much longer than that. Maybe a month. We're going about a month. But
the tone of your podcast has changed because of those inputs.
Oh, yeah, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy. And to be able to reach the entire world, right, is super humbling.
So a lot of people don't realize that they feel isolated and alone.
Yeah.
We talked about this on
Absolutely.
shows in the past.
Absolutely.
Because of social media, if you're using social media to create that social community and get out there, you're doing that execution. Look at all the people that have viewed your content that have heard your message. You're not really alone. You know from the stats and the data that people see it. They may not engage, they may not interact, but now you really see that it is out there differently. Do you think that impacts how you're going to create content today or tomorrow?
Bro, so just going back to like when I was in the rooms, right? I mean, if you took every AA group in Amarillo, took them all, there's quite a few, right? They probably service to 200 or 300 people a day with all the different group meetings. Maybe we'll say 500. We'll say 500 just to play it safe. On our podcast, we are reaching 10,000 people a day. Like, so it's been that space for me to provide maximum service.
Yeah.
Right. And you see it. And that's the beautiful part about it. Right. Again, just going back to all the comments and people that are rocking with it, it's really cool. And you kind of want to get a full head of ego, because I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a confidence booster, right?
Well, it should be.
Absolutely, it's a confidence booster because now I'm wanting to take the podcast and I'm ready to hit the stage. Like, I want to do some big events, recovery events. Like, we have Recovery Takeover in Austin, the Big Texas Recovery Rally. There's some really big events that we hold
and
here in
Sammy
Texas.
signed you up for a TED Talk.
Dude, like, I would be absolutely stoked. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd be completely nervous as all get out, but I think I'd get through it.
You'd crush it.
But I'm ready for those things. And so that's just another way to stand in front of a crowd of 10,000 people and tell your testimony. You know what I mean? And just know that, if not everyone out there, most of them people in that crowd are going to resonate with something you say.
Yep.
At some point in your speech, they're going to resonate to it. They're going to attach to it. And it's just that message that sends out there that, like, you're not alone. There's other people that go through this, and the power of testimony is super strong.
Okay, so as we wrap up, what would you tell yourself 2 years ago from what you know right now? Tell me again.
Bro, go hard. Like, just, man, like, mash the gas on everything you do. Like, knowing now what I know, that God wanted me to do great things. And I see it. Like, I absolutely see it. Like, hold back nothing.
Okay.
Don't let fear creep in. Don't let doubt creep in. Just mash the gas and go.
Despite all the negative people that are still in your life, because there are people that are still negative in your life.
Absolutely.
It's not about them. It's about you.
No, it's not.
And I commend you for the example you set for those people. There's guests that come in here, bro, that you've touched their life in a way that unless people watch those episodes, they'll never understand it.
Right.
But you are a force for good now.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to what you were. So this is the last question I got for you. Do you ever still compare yourself to what you were 10 years ago?
No, not even a little bit. And I don't even let people compare me to that. Like, so there's this stigma that I have to be this, I have to be this bad person my whole life.
Yeah.
Because I made some wrongs in my life. Don't get me wrong, bro. I made a lot of wrongs, right? But I made up my mind. Like, I have stepped into being a completely different person through and through. I tore myself down. I built myself back up renewed, like completely, right? So you can't make me feel like you can't anymore. I've made my living amends. I continue to make my living amends, right? That's something that saved my life. When I went into the rooms, they say, you got to make amends to all the people you hurt. And I was like, bro, those people are going to shoot me in the face. I'm not going back to them people. Like, some of them people would rather kill me. Truthfully. But then a mentor of mine, he told me, he said, man, if that's your problem, then let's practice doing the living amends, right? And the living amends is where you simply just start living a better life,
yep.
Right? You turn away from what you were doing and you start living for life, doing for others, right? Which is what I did. And bro, I get so much peace, and it's been so rewarding in so many ways. And I'm in a situation now to where I'm really having to ask people to step up and show out for me. Yeah. And just the response I got back when I cried out for help has been just like, bro, I broke in a meeting earlier. I broke down and started crying because, like, literally the whole room stood up and prayed over me and my wife.
Well, and that's just it. You need to make sure that everybody knows, even if they don't write a letter for you, or show up and sit next to you in court, the best thing they can do for you is continue to do that. Pray for you, think about you.
No, bro,
and wish you guys well. So the challenges that are ahead of you.
But that's the humbling,
just a speed bump, bro.
Bro, that's the humbling part of it, right? Is because I devoted myself to a life of service, right? And I was talking about this in the meeting earlier. I constantly have to be the rock. As a coach, as a mentor, as someone that people aspire to,
as a husband,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm constantly in those areas where I'm always having to be that rock for other people, seeking help, right? Because I've turned into that guy.
So
I'm now that guy.
You're like,
I'm like the recovery guy, Dr. Phil.
You're the recovery equivalent of a pastor.
Something like, so we're talking about 5 years goals. I'm glad you brought that up, or just now, because literally God came to me last night and he was like, "What do you think about a recovery church?"
I I'm gonna warn you. Well, that'd
No.
be a side conversation.
No.
No, I mean,
Start one. I'm not saying me pastor it.
No, what I'm just saying. I'm talking about a headache. That's a lot of a headache.
Yeah, but
But it's a great thing. It's a great idea.
and
you're not alone, because actually I've been approached by people
it's
asking about that kind of thing.
I think it's something because addicts typically don't carry any spirituality to them, right? They can't, if it's not tangible, they can't see it.
Yeah.
Right? If they haven't seen someone else do it, they don't believe it, right? So that's one of the things I've tried to do, is I've tried to be that inspiration for other people to walk behind me and do things, not necessarily the same manner as me, but to inspire them in their journeys.
Well, and that's the other cool thing about it, because hanging around with people that you hang around with, like me, other people come here with the same vision or same mindset of, I got to serve more. I need to do more. And your guests
service
show
changes
that too,
everything.
Right? And so that as we wrap up, because I've gone like way over. But
I'm not tripping.
You already gave me like 4 ideas for the next 4
Bro,
episodes.
I can spit all day, man.
So
like,
can I, but
like I said, like God just told me to mash the gas on everything, so I'm mashing the gas on everything. Like, and I can sit here and talk recovery all day long, about anything,
And that's just it. The way you work it is how you. The way you work your recovery, and work your service for other people. People see that, and they're like, hey, they recognize Sean's different than he was.
Absolutely.
The people that knew you then all come back and go, hey, great job.
Mm-hmm.
And then there'll be that 1 or 2 people that are like, nah, I don't ever believe whatever's going to happen, but that's not your problem. You just keep doing what you do.
I'm gonna continue to show up and show out. And I'm gonna keep doing what God asked me to do. And He simply said, "Man, do more. Keep doing it."
Make sure you tell everybody. Wrap it up.
You can tell Mike doesn't close out the show very often.
I don't. It's not my show to close out. It's yours.
Man, I want to thank everybody who taps into the Better Days Reign podcast and supports the Better Days Reign podcast. And man, really just everybody who supports the recovery movement in general. Man, recovery changed my life. I've seen it work in other people's lives. Recovery works. And I know in our country, we are drifting away from that mentality through our judgments, through things going on throughout the world, through misinformation and misguidance. But man, when you find the right people who really know this thing through and through, like, recovery can be the greatest thing ever in your life. And it's never too late to find recovery and really start cracking at it. Man, I am living proof. I have came from a life of nothing with a huge weight over my head. And I've had the best years of my life when I started taking recovery seriously. And everything else is going to pan out the way it needs to. And I'm a firm believer in that, right? I just got to stick to what I believe. I got to stick to God. I got to stick close. So, man, when saying that, man, thank everybody for watching. Hit that subscribe button, bro. Like, hit that subscribe button. Watch it, spread it, share it, man, because we love doing this, and we love being we love being a part of your recovery just as much as I love you being a part of my recovery. And in saying that, thanks for watching. Y'all have a great weekend.